The Triple Trio with Hutchi, Richo and RS Dye. It's Hong Kong racing with the blinkers off.
G'day folks, I'm Terry Bailey and welcome along to the Triple Trio. I'm filling in for Jason Richardson. The reason I'm filling in for Richo is he's had a much better offer, more money involved than he's done the flyer. Hutch, hello to you.
Yes, thank you, TV. Yes, he has. He's off its grand final week, of course, in Victoria.
He's a very busy man, isn't he?
He's a very busy man, and so are you for that matter. So thank you very much for joining us. And for those who don't know a little bit about or anything about T. Bailey, we've put together a couple of your calls from back in the day, and one of them involved, of course, Terry's called all over Australia, one of the leading race callers in Australia. And this is back in the day. We've got Tie the Knot. So, because we wanted to sort of tie things in, of course, with our man Shane Dye. And here he is. And here's the call.
3-year-old Arena. Tie the Knot in front. Dye's riding supremely confident. He's hands and heels. Into goes under the back coming after him. Tie the Knot in front. Responds. He's too good. He's back with a big win. Showweller leads the way from Arena. Tie the Knot's trying to get up on the fence from Mighty Padrill. Arena's levelled up with Showweller. Tie the Knot starting to come the rail. Arena in front. Tie the Knot's getting up on the inside and Showweller stride for stride, the champion. Tie the Knot bursting up on the fence. Dye does it again. Tie the Knot wins his second Mercedes.
That bring back fond memories, Terry?
Absolutely. He was a great racehorse and Shane rode him just about all the time. And he was a bit like Rough Habit. He just knew where the winning post was and he could sort of duck and weave himself. He was a terrific horse. It's a shame that we didn't see the very, very best of him in Melbourne. He probably should have won a derby when it was a dynamite leaders track and second coming for Michael Moroney was able to win that year. But he was just an out-and-out superstar racehorse, so genuine and trained by one of the best blokes I've ever known, one of the greatest trainers in Guy Walter. I revered that bloke. He was just a wonderful legend. We lost him way, way too early.
Yep, that we did. And talk about revered. Well, one man is revered by many of our followers on the show, Shane Dye, and he was aboard him.
I haven't spoken to Shane for a long time. I think the last time I saw Shane, they had a mechanical horse competition at Canterbury one year. And they said, Terry, we need you to call it and be the judge. Now, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. I didn't even know how the result would be done. But all I remember was I backed Darren Beeman's last winner probably the Wednesday before. So they said, you've got to tell you who the winner is. So I said, and Darren Beedman, he's done it. He's beaten RS Dye. And I was walking down the stairs and Shane said to me, he said, yeah, that'd be right. You and your mate Tappy. Yeah, I know how you, yeah, he's protected, isn't he? He's a bloody koala bear, isn't he? You know, oh, didn't he? Give it to me. And I had no comeback because I didn't even know what I was doing.
Well, on that note, we might bring in Shane.
Hello, Shane. How are you, buddy?
I'm well, thank you. Clint, it will be interesting to see how many viewers are down this week without Richo.
Slap, take that.
Well, look, yes, we've brought in a good replacement, and Richo's only request was that we got someone with a similar haircut. So we've filled that. We'll fill that gap anyway. TB, you go to the same hairdresser anyway.
There's one thing about it too, Hutch. When Shane, they say slaughtered Veandercross, right? I went. They all attacked him and everything like that. Now that I gave the early crow at the 600 or the 200, I know how he feels because I know I was right with the early crow. It's not my fault the horse got beat. So, Shane, I'm on your side, brother. You have been hard done by for many years.
Oh, mate, there's been a lot more worse rides than that. I just went a bit skinny, not too wide. I'd go wide every day, mate. The simple fact of the matter is I was the best jockey ever in Australia for biased of tracks. Simple as that. I could pick them from race one and I backed my judgment and the track was better out there that day, but we've been over that 1,000 times. Let's find winners, not talk about something that was, 30 years ago.
Shane, they still talk about my early crows, even from going back years ago when Crown Glory, look, the winner of the Golden Slipper and bloody Belle de Jour nearly fell over, should never have won the race and got home and won.
I should have won that slipper. I had every chance in the race. I hit the front at the 200 at the perfect time, assertive lad. And he was the best 2-year-old. And he come out and won the size and the champagne after that, and he looked the winner at the furlong. But what actually happened, he had a problem going into the slipper, and he had missed work. And if he hadn't, he probably wins it.
I know you don't want to talk about the past, Shane, but you'd love to be riding now because a lot of these jockeys are scared to go to the front and make decisions. They're all riding to a pattern nowadays. I reckon you'd excel in the environment we have nowadays.
Yes, I would, because I never took any notice of stewards. And unfortunately, most of the jockeys today are worried about stewards. They're worried about speed maps. They're worried about trainers. and they're too conscious of that instead of doing their own thing. I think the grade of jockey is nowhere near as good as it was. You still got your superstars like Ryan Moore and a James McDonald. They could fit into any era. But there's not that 4 or 5 riding that there were in my day, like a Mick Dittman, a Ronnie Quinton, a Jimmy Cassidy, a Darren Beedman. I could go on and on. They're not there anymore. And I think it's because that of speed maps, what the stewards do, and what the trainers say.
Do you think because there's so much extra coverage with racing now, we're analysing everything, that they feel the pressure and they're scared to go out of their comfort zone and just doing what they're told?
I do. I think that's very, very true. But see, I was very lucky because I didn't care. I knew I'd put enough work into the race and how it was going to be run and what I thought that I backed my own judgment. Remember that ad of Michael Jordan's, the greatest probably sportsman of all time? He did a Nike ad once and he says, I've missed the winning shot 2,400 and something games, but I've made it 4,000 games. I want that shot. You're not going to get it right always. But if you're good at what you do and you put the work in, you know that you want to be there in the moment and you want to back your judgment. And you know you're going to get it wrong sometimes, but you're going to get it right more times than you're going to get it wrong. And that's what great jockeys do. But unfortunately, in today's era with speed maps and technology and stewards, they're taking that away from the jockeys a bit.
And last week, Hutch, you turned it on.
It was good.
You had a big one.
It was a good weekend for the followers. Yeah, of course, Shane really lucky with you and said it'd be hard to beat. Unfortunately for our followers, we nabbed the Quinella with Hanson Boba, who actually was coming back in and on the line and runs this weekend on the quick backup. Another one that Shane liked was President's Choice, and this horse paid a nice dividend for the followers, about that $5 mark for Karras, who managed to get a few winners, Karras, and we'll talk a little bit about his situation shortly. This was a good start to the day, Terry. We had California Veins kick off 1 of 3 for Zach Purton, and there's a little bit of meat on the bone there was the Quinella, the horse there, Miracles getting up on the outside, who looks like he's come back an improved horse. So we backed that up on Wednesday. We had a small loss, but our best bet got home in Pretty Queen Prawn, who was part of our sweet defeat file as well. So all in all, we've had a good week, but we're looking to bounce back from Wednesday, which was a small loss.
Quick one for you, Shane. You've been doing form ever since you were, a jockey. Do you find the form harder to do nowadays? Is it as easy to do as what it was back in the old days? Now that you're not riding, how's it feel to do the form for you?
Terry, I've been doing form since I was born. I would wait at the shop on a Tuesday morning when I was probably 6 or 7 years old to get a best bets to take to school. I'll tell you a very good story, and this is true, and I'll do it quickly. 8 years old, I would tip to a teacher. Mr. Mowat was his name. And we're playing paddle tennis before school, right? So it's 8:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. School starts at 9. I'm probably 7 or 8 at the time. And he said, it was on a Friday. He said, is there anything today? And I said, yes, there's this horse today. And they think it can win. It's having its first start over the hurdles, and it's been going no good on the flat, but it jumps well. So it was in the first race at about 11:30, and he must have gone and backed it at the TAB at 10:45 because we have a morning break at school. It was primary school. So I go for lunch and come back in at 1 o'clock at lunch, and I'm sitting at the back of the room, and Mr. Mowat goes, Shane, come up the front. So I go up the front and he goes, that horse won, here's $5. You can go home from school. A teacher gave me $5 when I was 7 years old for tipping him a winner and told me not to go home and have the day off. The horse won, it paid $113 and its name was Callis. So I've been doing the form since I was 6 or 7 and it's never changed. I love it. Hong Kong's easy if you know what you're looking for because there's 2 tracks. You got the same jockeys, the same trainers, and you got all the information. And it takes a long time to do form. So for me in Australia, it's impossible. I couldn't keep up with anything.
Okay, Hutch, what's the news? It's been a big week.
Yeah, pretty big week in terms of sort of especially the jockey ranks because we had Karras Teaton who's on the sidelines due to a thyroid issue, which is, we wish Karras all the best and he's one of the leading riders. Of course, we saw him last weekend ride a treble. So let's hope his health can bounce back pretty quickly. That'd be concerning for Karras, and he's been one of the leading jockeys up there for a few years now. So he'll be hoping to get some momentum through the season, and he didn't really get that last year, unfortunately. Very big news: Joe Moreira has also got an injury which has been rearing its ugly head in the off season. Or it sounds like it's been with him for quite some time, and it sounds like he's going to be on the sidelines for a period of time as well. So we wait to see what the outcome of that will be. But
how big an effect on the betting will that have over there, Hutch? Will that lower betting figures?
Well, a few years ago, read something recently when they were both Zach and Joe. I think they might have come to Australia and they were away for a meeting. At the whole meeting, I think there were about 77 million down on Hong Kong. That is down on the meeting when those two riders weren't there. Look, they'll still bet a lot, and it wouldn't matter really who rides. But it did have an impact on the market, and they like to bet with confidence, and they like the leading jockey, Shane. So it'll certainly have some sort of impact.
Zach still riding up a storm?
Oh, Zach's riding very well. He seems to put his horses in the right spot. He's aggressive out of the gates. I reckon 95% of the time it works. There's a few there that he rides that he's a bit too aggressive on out of the gates. This was his first winner, a Class 5 race. He was fresh. He won very easy. He's on a great rating, and he's never far away when he gets Class 5 down the bottom.
I did speak to Zach about your thoughts there on Windsor as well, Shane, last week with regard to riding him out of the comfort zone, and in short, he agreed. He said Shane was right. He said, but they wanted to have me to be forward in the race. And so for those watchers or listeners in weeks gone by, Shane was talking about just taking horses out of their comfort zone, Terry. And I did speak to Zach about it. And he said Shane was 100% spot on.
There was a drop whip too on Saturday?
There was, yes. Karras Teton actually he ended up, I think, $20,000 he ended up getting fined at his final stage last season. And Shane, look, Karras has had a lot of success, but this has almost turned into a real issue for him. He's dropping the whip a lot. He dropped it again here. He managed to get up and win on Satanta, but I noticed obviously the conditions may have been a little bit rainy or wet at this stage, but it's something for Karras that he's going to have to try and work out. What can he do?
Well, it shouldn't have come out of his hands when he hit him. Normally when it comes out of your hands is when you flick it around like that and it comes out. I remember when I started, I always put a rubber band around my finger and the whip so it couldn't come out. And then after a while, you get used to it and you don't lose your stick. I remember one day in a Group 1, I lost my stick. It was actually on slight chance in the Caulfield Stakes. I sat outside the leader and I turned for home, and it was a wet track and a bit soft, and it had been raining, and I flicked it around, and when I flicked it around, it come straight out and I lost it. Didn't affect the result. She didn't run anywhere. But it can happen, but it shouldn't be happening all the time. Throughout a season, you should probably lose your stick. You can get it knocked out by another jockey. So when they go to hit a horse and go boom, and you've got your whip coming up, it'll come straight out, and you can't stop that. But outside of that, you should only lose it once or twice a year, no more than that.
Has he got to get some gloves or something? I mean, what can he do? You mentioned the rubber band there. Like he's got to change something, because he's going to end up getting fined, I think, more often if it keeps happening.
There's a thing called super glue, Hutch.
But that was unusual then, because he actually lost it when he hit the horse. If you had a look, I hadn't seen that. So he went boom, and it was the pressure on the horse's backside when he hit it that the whip come flying, and that shouldn't happen. Like that would never. I don't see that very much. As I said before, it's normally when you flick it round, it comes out.
Another little question for you too, Shane. Why do riders, I see it quite a deal, flick the whip around and spin it around? Is that just a bit of showmanship? Because I would have thought that was flaunt with a bit of danger.
Okay, so when you're riding, I've got a pen here, so I hope you can see that. So you're going like that. So you got to get it up. So the best way to get it up is to put it through your fingers and twirl it round, and then you go boom like that. So that's the flick up there like that. Boom, and it's gone flying. My pen. I've lost the pen.
You're out of practice.
Karras Teton impression.
It's a good one too. Alex Chung, tell me a bit about this apprentice.
He's riding well. He rode a winner, his first winner the other day. Had a very good weight advantage, dropped to Class 3. He's going to ride a lot of winners, this kid, early on with his 10 pounds. It's just too big of advantage, especially on leaders and horses that go forward, don't you think, Clint?
Yeah, look, it's gold up there. It's 4.5 kilo claim TB, and I've seen a lot riders that are of inferior ability in terms of at this stage of their career compared to him. He's had good grounding. He's balanced.
So he's
he
a bit like
rides
a
well.
Josh Richards that came to
Correct.
Victoria that was, 5 years in front of everyone else, but he was still claiming 3 kilos.
Yeah, exactly. So he's been really well. I think he'll fly early. The problem for all of them, TB, is because the weight and the weights is such an advantage in Hong Kong, and it's so closely handicapped that it can be like gold, and it will be for Angus as well. So he'll do really well. It's just down the track that.
What's his background, Clint?
I'm not sure about his background.
South African or something?
No. He's a local.
He's
Hong
a
Kong
local,
boy.
is he?
Local
Okay.
Hong Kong boy. They're all usually there, but
They're all local.
He did spend some time in South Australia, and he's obviously ridden over here for a while. So he's had some good schooling. I think in recent years, I would say he'll do very well. We had Jerry Chow do well. Now he's finding it a lot tougher without the claim, TB. But this kid will be one to follow this season for sure, and I reckon he'll knock out his claim pretty quick.
6th generation, Miraculous Honour, Super Sunny Singh and Regent Glory all in a line. He's going to dig into an empty hole here because Super Sunny Singh has grabbed him, but Super Sunny Singh.
What have you got for us? Sweet in defeat. I like that. Sweet in defeat.
Sweet in defeat.
There's nothing sweet in defeat, but anyway, I'll take it.
Well, we've got a few there that we thought were good runs over the course of the last week. I thought Indigenous Realm, negatively ridden last week and went back from the wide gate, ran very well, I thought, on that occasion. Now, Casa Papa has done nothing. I know we had the winner of the race last weekend in Mr. Ascension, but this probably should have nearly won Casa Papa. It was held up inside and didn't get a crack at them. Shane mentioned the race during the week with Rise Brethren behind the eventual winner who got a soft lead with Zach Purton on board, but Rise Brethren ended last campaign in great form. An Island Surprise, I thought, was another one. It didn't work out for Zach on that occasion. He was probably a little just caught in an awkward spot early when he was positive. And I've got a new one, a Money Muncher. These horses, Terry, that just keep being backed. Mm-hmm. They're often starting short, and I haven't really found too many excuses for them.
I've funded a lot of those horses over the years, Clint.
Well, you probably would have backed this one, Terry. It was a Sunny Delight, but here's just a couple of replays. Now, Indigenous Realm, there he is out wide. Shane, I thought, look, that I can understand why they did this. They went back. He probably would have been posted had he gone forward, but he conceded a lot of ground through that early stage, and he got home well. He was still last there, passing the 400. He's made up an enormous amount of ground in a race where they really didn't go quick, so he had the pace against him. He's been negatively ridden early, and he really launched late. The race overall didn't rate anything special on the back of that slow speed, but I thought this horse could settle a lot closer, and he's nearly ready to win, Shane.
He ran on really well in that race. It was a good run. There's no doubt about that. There'll be a race for him coming up soon.
Other one, Casa Papa. Here he is. He's back on the inside. Like I said, we found the winner, but have a look at Casa Papa back towards the inside. Now, he only had one prep last season, Terry. Didn't show a lot. He only got out here very, very late. There wasn't really much he could do. He landed in that spot, and there just wasn't a run for him. He tried to force a passage there, but there was a fair bit of merit in that run, I thought, Shane, as well.
Yeah, he ran well. The only problem with that was the sectionals of him for the last 400 weren't that fast, and I like to see them fast, so a few of them run on.
There was a little bit of rain, but he was held up for a few hundred metres as well. This was a great run from Rise Brethren. This was a sit and sprint. This horse wins in another bound. Unfortunately, it was one of our smaller plays. Our main play was Far, who I was a bit surprised Vincent didn't go and sit outside Zach because there wasn't any speed in the race like Shane mentioned. And had that been the case, I think Rise Brethren would have won because it just would have meant that Zach didn't have that first easy half of the race. But Rise Brethren up in trip, 2,000, 1,800, either track, he'll be ready to win one as well. I know you liked him a little bit as well, Shane.
Yeah, I backed him. I think he was $11 or something. He was good odds. I thought he could win. I reckon he's improved this season from last season, and I had him on my ratings going a lot higher this season.
They sweep for home now. Veandercross has come very wide. Veandercross answering the urgings of Shane Dye. Mannerism coming at him. Mannerism has got it.
Daring tactics by Shane Dye. He's got Octagonal in full flight on the corner. Bold tactics by Shane Dye are going to pay off, and he pinches the Chipping Norton.
Okay, Shane, what have you got for us this week?
Well, this was last Saturday. I thought this was an outstanding ride, Teton. Watch him from gate 12 on the outside here. This is the perfect way to ride a leader. He doesn't dig it out of the gates. He come across, and I've been telling you on the show for a long time that outside gates on leaders are beneficial and better. They always firm in betting when from computer teams if you've got an outside gate. Now, if we roll it on, you'll see him. He doesn't push him out. He just comes across and he gets up over his wither. He'll sit up on him here. And you watch him. He's on the better part of the track. That's one advantage. And he's away from all the other horses, so he's relaxed. Right here, I said to myself, that horse is going to win for sure watching the race after a furlong. And he just comes. He doesn't panic. He doesn't push. And he gets across so easy. There was 3 1,400-metre races this day. He ran the slowest first 200 out of them all. And if you have a look, he just dictated and he kicked and won a race. That's how you ride a leader in a 1,400-metre race from an outside gate coming across. Very, very, very good ride, I felt, watching it.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah, no, absolutely, Shane. I was surprised. You don't normally see in Hong Kong, Terry, them get across that easily. There was a couple there underneath that could have potentially made Karis work just a little bit. But, Shane, what's the right time to start picking it up? Some of them seem to wait too long before they push the button.
Okay, on a good track, you hang on for as long as possible. On a wet track, you want to get them off the bridle just before the turn, because if you get them off the bridle on a wet track before the turn, no horse can make a long 600-metre run, right? So even though you may struggle late, it's too far for the back markers. But on a good track, you actually want to hold on to them for a little bit longer because you know you're going to quicken fast when you quicken. I thought that was a good, very good ride. Now, this next race was the following race on a wet track. It's not a slaughter, but what you got to realise is he used him too much to get across. He was even money favourite. The first thing you got to do is he's pushed him too much here to get across Bundell, to get across on the favourite, and it's had to work too much. And why I say that is that John Sires trained it. Now, as a jockey, I'm riding John's horses. Early in the season, you have to know they're not like a David Hayes or a Danny Shum's horse, fit and hard. These horses are underdone of John's. So you can't do that on one of John's early in the season. You've got to be mindful. Plus the track had rained. It had rained and the track was rain affected. And he went up in ratings so much for his last win. When that happened after 200 metres, I thought, well, he's not going to win. He's going to be weak, and he was. You just got to be alert. It's not a slaughter because you're coming across to lead, but there's a fine line, and I think you can see those two races, the fine line between winning and getting beat, Clint.
I agree. I was a little surprised with Super Winner that he didn't lead that race. I thought that Bundle of Charm might probably work sort of and let him go because he can normally roll at a good tempo.
Now, I want you to watch this race on Wednesday night. This is a classic example. Gate 6, Gate 7, if you can just stop it there. I'm watching this, and after 20 metres, I said the horse in the orange has got no hope in the world of winning, Dragon Pride, because they tried to go forward on him. Now, you watch Ching Yung Warrior, blue, behind. This is a great ride, a classic example when out of the gates you make the wrong decision and it proves that it's wrong. So he tried to go forward on Dragon Pride and he realises here he can't get in. So he's got no option. He's got to come back. And that horse there normally goes back anyway. If he goes back, he could win the race. But there, that's cost him 2 to 3 lengths already in energy. Look at the blue horse where he is. And he drew outside of him. This is how starts can be very, very vital. Now, if we forward the race later on, he's got to work around them, Dragon Pride, where the other horse, I think Poon rode it, didn't he, Clint?
He did, yeah, Matthew.
Very
Poon.
good ride, very patient, saved all the energy. He was the outsider of the field. Now, have a look at the orange. He's got to come out and work around them. Poon's staying into the fence. Now, that's where Dragon Pride should have been, right? Cutting the corner. He's probably cost himself through the race. I've worked out on my ratings about 5 lengths, and he got beat 4 lengths. And people say didn't go very well, Dragon Pride. If he had been on the fence where the blue horse was, he would have finished the race, even though he got beat 4 lengths, because you can't do that. But that's a decision. When you jump out of the gates, a classic example is you try to go forward a bit, thinking you'll get in a small field, and you don't, and you've got to come back, and it's already cost you the race. That is a classic example.
Yeah, love that one, Shane, as well. I thought it was a great ride from Matthew Pern. Good comparison about the tactics backfiring. Of course, he gets in. It might have been a different story, but he didn't. Like saying Shed, he probably should have gone out with different tactics. But the other, I suppose, I know one that you didn't mind as well, and a notable mention I thought on the night was a great ride from Circuit Elite and Vincent Ho. He popped one off early in the turn, in the first turn. He took off down the back. The horse that was well backed, Laurel Ambition, was all locked up, and Vincent sort of pinched a break mid-race.
Yeah, very good ride. I think he had 100 yards. I didn't have him on top before the race. I didn't think he could win on his trial, but he was in the TT, of course. I gave him a good chance. He was quite impressive. Vincent missed the start a bit, and he could have been on the fence, but he stayed off because Tony likes them to go forward, and also he didn't want to be 3-4 back on the fence. And then down the back, I think it was Go Ballistic, come up outside of him 3 deep, and he just gave him a nudge, come out, and he said, right, I'm off. And when he went just before the rock, he really took off, and the race was over. He put 4 lengths on them in 2 hops. It was a very good ride, and the pace slowed when he went. It went from quite quick early, but they just slowed a bit, so he did it at the right time. Very good ride. Of course, Zach's ride on Telecom Fighters when he won was outstanding, but he was always going to get that type of ride when no one could take him on, and he rated him so well. There's been quite a few good rides actually lately that I haven't mentioned that you could.
Now it's time for Star Power, and our very special guest is Harry Bentley. Harry, great to have you on the show, mate. Looking forward to the season?
Yeah, likewise. Thank you very much for having me. Really looking forward to what the season has to offer, and made an okay start to things, so we're on the right track.
Harry, just a little bit of background on yourself. Of course, as you sounded, you hail from England, and you tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you're a 6-time champion jockey in Qatar, and your overseas experience prior to coming to Hong Kong?
Yeah, I've been riding for, I think, nearly 14 years professionally now. As you mentioned earlier, come from UK, so had a good apprenticeship there, and was lucky enough to get a good job with a Qatari owner, Qatar Bloodstock, in the UK. And then from a very early age, went away to the Middle East and rode a lot in Dubai and Qatar, amongst Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, what have you. So I've got a good bit of international experience, and I can't believe it's been quite that long I've been in the saddle now, but things have gone good.
And one of the highlights and one of the great races that I've had the fortune to watch, I see, is one of your highlights in the July Cup, and you won the July Cup back in 2016 aboard Lamado. Would that be fair to say one of your finest moments in the saddle?
Yeah, without a doubt. That was definitely one of my highlights. I was fortunate to pick up the ride at the beginning of the 2016 season, and it was a fantastic opportunity for me at the time in my career. It's, every jockey just needs a good horse to get on to springboard them into the next level, and he did that for me. He was extremely impressive in the July Cup that day, and then went on to win the Prix de la Forêt as well, when it was held at Chantilly that year. Also rode him in the Breeders' Cup Mile. He stepped up to the mile, which actually was never really an ideal distance for him. He was always better at 7 furlongs, but I'm sure, as you know, our 7 furlong program in the UK for those top horses are very, very limited. We don't even have a Group 1 over 7 furlongs. So the Prix de la Forêt Group 1 was an ideal trip for him, and he was a tremendous horse for me, and won a few Group 2s as well as a couple of Group 1s on him.
You've kicked off the season well as well. You've managed to get one in the back of the net with Carrying Spirit. It's always nice to get a winner early in the season.
It is. I mean, it's great for not only the confidence, but also just to show the owners and trainers that you're fit and ready for the start of the season. And I know it's very important for your profile to be seen winning early doors. So that's been fantastic. I mean, I've hit the crossbar on a few other occasions so far this season, which is a bit frustrating, but at least they're thereabouts and they're in the mix.
Harry, I think you might have to also give a little thank you to Tom Wood that day. He did something that the gentleman alongside me doesn't mind doing in going the early crow there. He almost crowed Zach Purton, I think, on that occasion and winning. And Terry's sort of a bit partial to doing that
Harry,
as well.
Harry, don't listen to this nonsense. You know that's got no effect whatsoever. Just disregard what you heard from Hutch there.
It must be a caller's worst nightmare. But.
Harry, I had a phone call this morning from Ryan Moore and we were talking. No one would realise you were apprenticed to his dad. He said to say hello, actually.
Yeah, I was. Do you know what? It was a fantastic place to be as an apprentice, Shane, because the Moors, as you well know, I'm sure, are unbelievable in their work. They are such hard workers. And I got a real grafting when I went there as a 16-year-old. It was a bit of a shock to the system. Every waking hour of the day, it seemed that I was working, but it was a fantastic place to start out.
And tell me, why did Ryan's dad, your boss, call you Gently Bentley all the time?
Crikey, you've done your homework. I don't know if it's the fact that I'm quite softly spoken or the fact that it just rhymes with my surname, but he could probably tell you more.
That you're a very soft kid and very nice, and you were very gentle. So Gently Bentley stuck.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's a great nickname, but I'll take it.
Okay.
We might be able to find you a new one. Looking forward to it, Harry. Harry, just before we get into your rides and what you've got coming up on the weekend, could you tell us a little bit about your experience so far as a whole with Hong Kong? What have you found the most challenging part of it?
To be honest, I think the most challenging part is what you do off the horse. I'm not used to any jurisdiction that I've ridden in previously that, you have to book your own rides. And obviously I'm used to doing that track work at home and getting a feel for the horses. But the fact that you really have to get into that mindset of asking and, being straight on the phone after racing and highlighting those horses that might have stood out for you in order to try and get on next time. That's been a real learning curve, to be honest. Something I quite enjoy because you end up being the master of your own destiny. But obviously it's a frustrating scenario, especially starting out when constantly you're not getting those rides you're asking for. And that's something that is always a challenge, no matter where you are in the table. But it's been something I've really had to adapt to. And then as far as the riding goes, obviously the pace is quick and you have to be fast away from the stalls. But I have ridden in jurisdictions which is similar, like Qatar is very similar to that, with a small track, pace favouring. So I do have that sort of bit of experience. But there are plenty of things culturally as well, which have been a bit to adjust to, but nothing that phases me too much.
It's interesting you're bringing it up, and I remember back when I was there, and there was, he was a leading English rider at the time, Kevin Darley, and he was a little bit reclusive or a bit of an introvert, I suppose, in some ways. You have to sell yourself, Harry. You've got to get out there, and you've got to be quite proactive. And like you said, there's a fair bit of it on the course, but there's also the off-course element, which is one thing that all the leading riders have had over there have in common. They managed to, the Purtons, the Basil Marcuses, the Douglas Whites, they're very good off course. Shane will sort of vouch for that, but it's a part of your business that you might not have expected that you've really got to refine, but you've probably had to over there.
Yeah, you're right, Clint. To be honest, I did a bit of homework before coming here, speaking to a few jockeys who have done stints here, like Ryan Moore and William Buick. So I had a rough idea of what to expect, but you never really know until you're in the thick of it, do you? But I couldn't agree with you more. You have to be a businessman. And again, it culturally, it is different because there's none of this, I don't want to be too pushy and I don't want to be a pain. You have to get out there. And if you're not asking for the rides, quite simply, you're not going to get on the horse.
There's no Gently Bentley, Shane.
No, you get left behind if you are in Hong Kong. You got to be on the go, on the ball, and ringing and seeing trainers, owners, and it's Well, I was like that in Australia, so nothing changed for me when I went to Hong Kong to ride, because managers really come into Australia about late 1990s, 2000. So they've only been around for 20 years. So when I went to Hong Kong, it was just natural for me to do chase rides.
How did you find that, Harry? Are you a naturally sociable sort of a guy that can be on the front foot, or has that taken some time for you to develop that skill? Because it's not something you can just switch on like that.
You're very right. I see myself. I'm quite confident with talking to owners and trainers. I feel like, if anything, it's one of my strong things. But I've definitely had to push myself into being more pushy, to be quite honest. I'm absolutely fine with that, but I definitely have noticed that if you think you're being a little bit pushy and forward, the chances are you're not being enough. So I've had to up the ante a bit, but it's taken some getting used to.
Harry, we might switch focus now and just talk about a horse that you had some nice success on last season and runs on the weekend. Secret Vision. We've got a replay of his recent trial, and what did you make of it?
Well, I was very happy with it. Obviously, I found myself perhaps a little bit further back in the trial than I wanted to be, but once he came down the outside, he was putting his best foot forward. I never asked too much of a question. I wanted to give him a medium trial, or Danny wanted me to give him that sort of a trial, and I was happy with the way he finished out. Obviously, this is going to be his first run, but he was a horse that was progressing nicely towards the end of the season.
Just to let you know, Harry, there's not much pace in that race. You've got, looking at this, Nordic Sky, who might first up lead. He led and won last year on bias track at Shartin, and that's why he won. All leaders won that day, but he could lead. But outside that, there's really not a lot of pace, so they may not go quick in that race.
I thought the same, Shane. I thought Ode to Joy in Barrier 4 might go forward as well, but to be honest, he probably is a horse that would suit a stronger pace, because I think he stays this distance of a mile really easily. So it doesn't look overly quick on paper, but it'd be nice to get a good rhythm on it.
What do you like, Harry, when it comes to being on front runners? Have you got the clock in your head yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty good. Obviously, as anyone, there's always room for improvement. I'm very comfortable leading on horses. Usually, obviously, depending on who you're riding for, what sort of style of ride those trainers like giving horses. But I think I'm pretty good.
Harry, another ride that you've got that I thought he's a nice horse going forward, and I think he's quite versatile. In the last race, you rode a horse by the name of Majestic Star. I thought his trial, he looked pretty good, and another one that looks, I thought, reasonably tuned up for this stage of the season.
Yeah, I would agree. His track work, I've ridden him on quite a few occasions now, and he's doing all the right things. Naturally, he's probably going to come on slightly for the run, but I feel like he's, as you mentioned, pretty tuned up. Danny's got him very fit, and he should be ready for this.
Actually, you've got pretty good rides. Your horse in the second, just looking at this quickly, Run Dares Run's not the worst. He loves the dirt, and he won 2 on the dirt last season, I think. He's definitely got a chance. His first up run was only average, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. He'll probably be running midfield somewhere. He's not the worst, Clint. He's definitely got a chance.
I haven't gone through race 2 that strongly, but the benefit of a run will certainly bring him on. He's got a big action, that horse. He needs a bit of room, doesn't he, Harry?
Yeah, well, he's massive. I was looking at his form actually yesterday when he ran towards, I think it was either his last race of the season or his race just run. He weighed in at 1,445 pounds, so he's a big unit. And when you look at him in the replays, he just dwarfs every other horse. So I would expect him to have come on a bit for that run.
And Ka Ying Spirit, who you won the other day, goes up to class 3, but he's got a great gate, 117 pounds, and that is definitely not a strong class 3. Normally, these 1,000-metre class 3 sprinting events has promising young horses on their way up. This hasn't really attracted them.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the way he did things the other day, I know he's only won narrowly, but I think he's a horse that's got a little bit of progress in him. And the fact that he's running with such a low weight, he's got to stand him in good stead from a good draw as well. So I like his chances.
And what else are you on? Lightning Bolt, he'll get back and ran on. His first up run was all right over 1,400. He's not the worst. He ran all right first up. He just got back and come home.
Yeah, we terrible draw that day, didn't we?
Yeah. So not a bad book of rides, Clint, for Harry tomorrow.
No, I think, it looks decent. And Harry, there might be some more opportunities open up now, I suppose, with Joe and Will Karras maybe not so long on the sidelines, but we've got some suspensions coming up, so that may not be ideal, but there's going to be openings there or thereabouts, I think, early in the season, hopefully for you.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, horrible for Joe and his injury that he's got ongoing. But as far as us jockeys are concerned, it opens up a big opportunity, and there'll be plenty of rides going.
Harry, what's your favourite drink, mate?
Water on here.
Where did that come from?
Would I sound like I'm lying if I said water?
You're a bit sus, Harry. I've got to say.
Hey, just while we're there, and I know, like, Shane likes to analyse all of our riders, Harry. So you mentioned earlier, Harry, that, and we see this with a few of the Northern Hemisphere jockeys out of the gates. They're much more inclined to allow their horses just to, I suppose, flop out of the gates, or they're not too overly positive on them. Shane, have you found that over the years in terms of some of the Northern Hemisphere riders out of the gates? That's just one aspect of their riding that they could potentially sharpen, or is there an area where you'd say, Harry, I think you could do this better or do that better?
It's actually not, because Ryan asked me this morning the same question, how's he riding? And I said, Ryan, he hasn't come up on my radar yet, but I don't sit there going over jockeys' replays night after night. I'm doing horses, and if a horse gets a bad ride, that jockey pops into my head straight away. And when there's a few in a meeting over 2 weeks, I know that they're not riding as well as they should be. But Harry, you're safe. You haven't been popping up on my radar, mate. But as for watching you so you can improve, right at this moment, I couldn't help you because you haven't popped up, and I don't think you're doing much wrong.
That's a result, Harry.
Well, yeah, I mean,
big result.
I'm honest, Harry.
On the radar for the right reasons as well. But Clint, going to what you say, I think I would have to agree with what you say. I mean, naturally, in Europe, our style of racing is to sort of let them jump out in their own time and relax into a rhythm and just slot in somewhere. And that's certainly not really the way to ride Hong Kong. And you just got to have that aggression out the stalls. And I mean, it's something that I'm definitely adapting to, and I think getting better at.
Harry, great chatting with you, mate. All the best for the rest of the season. We hope to see you out here in the land of Oz sometime soon.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Harry Bentley there. Now let's go to the tips for the Sha Tin meeting coming up on Sunday with Hutch. We're looking at race number 3 on the program, the Celebration Cup, a Group 3 race, Hutch. What's your thoughts here?
Very thin race, and there'll be a short price favourite. Here's mine, California Spangle, Terry at 100%. I've got him marked $1.37. I think he'll be about that price. Will Power's more of a dirt horse. I thought Cheerful Days might be the one that could run reasonably well. At the moment, I've got him 880. I may adjust that closer to race time, but look, Duke-wise also got to be thereabouts in the market because I don't think there's much depth. But this is California Spangle, Terry. He was one of the boom horses last season, runner-up in the Derby. He's got an immense record already. We just wanted to see him work well. This was his trial up in Chung Fan. It was a great piece of work, Shane. He's going to be very short. He's going to probably go the front and prove very hard to run down, I would have thought.
He may take a sit outside healthy, happy. It all depends how fast they want to go on him, but he could lead. Zach will probably be aggressive. It's interesting during the week, Tony saying he doesn't know whether he's a sprinter or a miler, and which way he'll head. But he should be winning, Clint. He's a lovely horse. Duke Y ran well the other day. He's going to get a good run from gate 1. He's going to be hard to beat, of course. Cheerful Days, well, he needed racing last season, but, geez, he went above what I thought he could go. He had a fantastic season.
It is. Well, it's interesting in terms of what Tony Cruz said, because when we did our Group 1 Goldmine profile on California Spangle last year, pedigree-wise, that mile range was the sweet spot. But the way he ran in the Derby, and it's not beyond the realms for him, and he was huge in the Derby after being pressured. So they'll kick off in a 1400, and I feel that, I suppose that for me the decision isn't more the sprint or the mile. It's whether they want to go to the mile or the Hong Kong Cup over 2,000 metres and maybe take on the likes of Romantic Warrior. So that's all to be played out. But for me, he leads for fun here. Healthy Happy normally doesn't go that quick. He's when he does get to the front. And I think Zach will want to just put him in the race, run along at a nice rhythm. If he gets a first easy 400 or 500 to that turn, I think he will. He'll have them all off the bit and chasing a fair way from home.
With the favourite being so short, what's the best way to play the race?
That's a good question, TB. I think that, there's on a win line, it'll be virtually unbackable. So then you're looking at an Exactor or a Quinella. And I think Cheerful Days or maybe Duke Y with the benefit of a run. And he's not up to that level, Duke Y, but a couple of the others, Healthy Happy, once he gets something else sort of there in the run, it won't help him. Willpower's too high in the ratings and conceding weight he shouldn't be. Mighty Giants, I don't think, going that well. So it's really a lack of opposition, really.
Clint, the interesting thing about Tony, though, this is unusual. You got three horses. You got Romantic Warrior, Golden 60, and him. They can all clash. Now, I've got no doubt none of them want to clash and they want to avoid each other. And Tony's thinking that because they can all go different ways and still win every race that they go to instead of clashing. And I think that's what's in his mind.
Yeah, you could be right. Look, they clashed, didn't they, Golden 60 and California Spangle last season. I don't know if California Spangle was absolutely at his best, and he was also coming off a pretty arduous season and a very hard Derby run. I think they should have those three may well clash before they work out where they're going to go in terms of the international races in December. But I wouldn't be putting anything off the table just yet. But yeah, I absolutely agree. They'll want to try and dodge certain horses, but it could be a great clash once again if we do see them over the mile. The difference, I suppose, I think both Golden 60 and California Spangle could be almost as effective over 1,200. Not so much Romantic Warrior. For me, he's the one that he's sort of more locked in for that 2,000-metre trip. He looks like he'll stay all day.
Okay, let's have a look at our racing stats to see who's hot at the moment.
Well, this is the South African boys are absolutely flying, aren't they? Douglas White and Lyle Hewitson. And this is just to highlight how well they have been going together, particularly from their last 50, a big profit on turnover. But from their last 50, they're going at 16% win strike rate. Now, White on his own's around that 9%, but Lyle's not quite as effective without the support from Douglas. And that's, I suppose, a partnership that he will be looking to cement. And look, I thought Lyle rode brilliantly on the Wednesday night with a couple of winners. I thought he was fantastic on Durham Star. He got him into right spot. He was patient. I think you've been saying it a while, Shane, but Lyle's really starting to hit his straps now. He took a while to settle into Hong Kong, but I've seen his confidence grow and he is riding so much better than he was probably 12 months ago.
Oh, mate, when he come in here, I just wiped him straight away. He made a lot of mistakes and he's just improved out of sight. And I've been saying on this show, I'll give it to you how it is. He's been riding well for a while, and that's why he's riding winners. And that's why he wasn't riding winners when he arrived, because he wasn't riding well. He's a different jockey now. He's showing aggression. He's putting them in the right spot, rides more horses forward, but that suits Douglas, I suppose. But like that ride you mentioned, Durham Star gave it a beautiful ride, had a great chance before the race, had to get back a bit. He's not getting a knock from me. He's riding very, very well, and he has done for a while.
Let's go to race number 8 on the program, Hutch. You're going to play late in the day, and this is a Class 3 handicap. Let's have a look at your market.
We'll put the marker up on hutchieshonkers.com a little later, TB, but look, a couple of horses here that will be well in the market and will be one of my better bets of the day will be Powerful Wings, and as Shane said, a little bit of a concern in terms of pace in this race, but Encountered's had the benefit of a run. He was actually a shock winner at huge odds at the end of last season. I thought it was a pass mark for his first up run. He's got to be right in the mix there. I don't think there are that many chances in the race. Total Power's got to be considered some sort of hope. There's a couple there sort of down the bottom that can't figure. Zach riding Looking Cool will attract some attention as well. But this is the horse that I want to be with, and it's Powerful Wings. I think he's got a horse you've got to probably leave alone a bit. I like Sylvester D'Souza riding him. I think if he can just settle off midfield, this horse can really produce a stunning turn of foot. He was no match for Encountered this day. There's a little weight swing in favour of Powerful Wings, who stretched out nicely there. And like I said, unfortunately, Encountered has had the benefit of the run and probably maps a little bit better on the weekend. But that's where the race, that's the starting point for the race, Shane. I thought Encountered's got to be right there in the mix with that benefit of that run and a map in favour. I think Powerful Wings could give him something to go to and to go on with. And we've got Secret Vision. We spoke to Harry. For me, I think Secret Vision's got a little bit defined. He was in that race won by Encountered and he finished a little further back. But, yeah, I think mainly working around Powerful Wings and Encountered.
There's not many chances in that race, Clint. I'd have Encountered on top because he's fit. His run the other day was very good. When I say he's fit, he's had the one run over 1,400, I think it was. The mile suits him. He's going to be on pace in what looks a slow run race. Yes, he meets the other horse. I think it might be 4 pounds. I could be wrong. I haven't checked. But I think it was 4 pounds worse, your horse, Powerful Wings. The only chance is more or less just looking at this quickly, Secret Vision. He's a chance. Powerful Wings trialled terrible the other day, but he always does. He never trials well, so I wouldn't worry about that. He did that last season. Of course, he's had the 3 placings his last 3 starts and wouldn't be a surprise if he won. And the other horse is looking cool from gate 13. Got an awkward gate, but he doesn't go bad. Zach's on him. Outside that, there's not a lot of depth in the race, I don't think.
No, I tend to agree. I think it's a pretty thin race for chances.
Let's go to race number 9. This is again a Class 3 over 1,400 metres, boys.
Yeah, an interesting race once again. I think TB in terms of chances here. What do we do with Never Too Soon? Pretty plain, fresh up. Zach rode there, and we'll talk about him in a moment, but Zach will ride 2 Shell. He's one of those profile horses. Terry's won 2 or 6 and looks like he's headed in the right direction for he and John Size. He's going to be relatively short in the market. 2 Shell on the other page. An interesting newcomer. I didn't mind the way A-Pal's trialled, but only about 5%, Terry, of imports win first up, so it's not going to be easy for him.
Is that right? 5%?
Yeah, on debut, a lot of these private purchases. Mm-hmm. It's just a tough thing to do. Infinite Powers had the benefit of a run. I thought Hawsain Bolt could run well and Ice Legend. This one's a little more open, I thought, Shane. What would you do with Never Too Soon? I thought he was disappointing fresh up. We spoke a little bit about him last week, but he's the one that might be able to
he's
improve.
A funny horse. He either goes good or bad. There's no in between with him. He's got gate 1. He might race a little bit closer because of gate 1. I don't want to be on him, but if he did something, it wouldn't surprise me. I think to kill the horse you mentioned, Zach's ride of Johnny Size, he'll be very hard to beat. He's a nice horse. He won well last season. His trials have been good. He went off at the end of the season, but he struck a wet track, if you remember, and I don't think he was quite comfortable in them. I think Golden Empire's going all right too, Clint. He's not the worst. And just looking at this quickly, A-Pow, the horse you mentioned, trialled very, very well. His action was good and he looked good. He could run a race first up.
He was called Orton here in Victoria. I think the Hawkses might have had him, Terry, so you'd remember him. He actually looks like he's made the trip up there okay. For me, on his Australian performances, he's a Class 3 horse, so he's in about the right sort of rating, I think, for over there. He's a horse that in Australia anyway could land on speed, and he was a handy enough horse. I'm
listening to you guys, and you're prefacing barrier trials a lot, so they're obviously very important over there, as they probably more so are in Sydney here in Australia.
Definitely, yeah. You'd like to see them trial well, and when they're coming back for the season, personally, Shane, I like to see at least 2 trials. I mean, it's not easy to win with. Well, they very rarely would win without one. And if they've had one, it's okay. But you'd like to see a couple of trials. That's a personal preference.
You get used to them trialling. Like I see horses like that horse that run 3rd in the first leg of the TT All Star on Wednesday night in the 1,800 metre race. I forget his name, All Star, whatever. He ran 3rd at 25 to 1. He ran last at the trials, pushed out. He went terrible. But he always trials terrible. Like you see it, that you see them trial terrible and you can bet your life they'll run well. Terry, horses are very funny with the trials. You got John Size, who now gives them a little bit harder with Joe, likes to test them a bit, but mostly they don't do much. So you got to get to know the trainers, the jockeys, how they trial them, and then if they always trial bad previous years or not.
Just getting back to this race, but you get to know you profile the horses a bit better in terms of their work. But just getting back to this race, 2 Shell will probably start favourite, be one of the ones to beat. I just think there might be a little bit of value at an early stage. I think there's a couple of runners here that I may well spec it. I'm not sure what price they'll come up, but Ice Legend down the bottom is up in class, following not a bad performance, and I might give Never Too Soon another chance. What Shane said's 100% right. When he's good, he's very good. When he's bad, he's bad. I'm not sure why I was disappointing the other day, but maybe he just needed it. I've noted that with him when you go back through his form, he's got a lot of peaks and troughs. So if he bounces back, and what happens in Hong Kong too, with Zach Purton getting off him, riding the likely favourite, the market can sometimes push him out a bit further than he should be. Let's not forget, with Never Too Soon, he started a $3.50 favourite course and distance last week, and you see it time and time again. He might go out at $10 or $12, and he could easily bounce back.
There's another horse in there, Clint, that didn't race too bad last season called Co-Partner Ambition. His trial was all right the other day. He won up at he won his trial, I think. He led all the way. It wasn't bad. He was pushed out, but he's not the worst either.
No, it's a competitive race.
What about race number 10 on the program, Hutch? I love these tips late in the day because I'm normally on the chase, on the get out.
This, we spoke about the previous race with a few chances. This is a very open race, the way that I see it. I'm going to be with Rewarding Together. We'll have a look at him in a moment. We heard from Harry, Majestic Star. He's a map horse. He's going to get a nice run. He's trialled well. He seems to tick a lot of boxes. He's with a stable, Danny Shum, that often will have their horses out and ready going. But when I went through some of the ratings, we saw Handsome Bobo ran last week, just touched off. Fantastic Treasure's a very good horse. Just about every horse in this race you can make some sort of a case for. It is, I think, at an early market, I had it sort of $5 the field. I'm going to be with Rewarding Together. Funnily enough, he's drawn wide. I'm hoping they're a little bit positive with him. Shane, I think he can go for. This Lucky Swain-esque form. This is good form. He's a horse that has been running gallantly really towards the end of last season and just kept getting better and better and better. In an ideal world, he draws an inside gate and we can be running 4th, 5th, 6th with a little bit of a sit. But I think in this race, if they're really looking to get the best result, for me, he's got to go forward. And I think there's a spot for him if they do that, because Handsome Bobo goes forward. I'm not sure there's a lot of pressure in the race.
Easton could press on from gate 12. He normally does. He's a nice horse too. I think it's a very open race, Clint. I don't like the race because it's just too open. As you said, and you're right, I can make a case for every single horse. I've probably got Rewarding Together on top. I liked him last year and I backed him a few times. I think he's a promising horse. You would like to see them coming from just off the pace and wide, and not a leader's track for him to be winning. But, I can make a case for most horses. I tipped him 2 weeks ago, Winning Method. He didn't get the right ride. He led on him over 1,400, and I know he's led and placed over 14, but that's not his go. That horse has got gate 3. He can definitely go better back to 1,200 from gate 3, being ridden 5th, 6th somewhere, and he's had the one run. But I'm not going to be surprised what wins, Clint.
When you're betting, Shane, do you like to back a couple of horses in a race, or do you also look at a race and go, it's going to be evenly run, I could back something at the front, something at the back?
No, I normally back just one, sometimes two, but mainly one. I like value, and I back a lot of long price horses. Like last week, I backed, even though I tipped President's Choice on here as my best bet of the day, I backed the second horse, Tailor Made. I got the Quinella, which was 85 to 1. There are a few races I'm backing 30 to 1 horses. You only got to get one right out of every 20 or 30 to show a profit. Whereas if you're backing even money chances, you've got to get everyone right to show a profit.
There's been a lot of punters over the years that do that as their format. That's the only way they bet. They won't go near anything under $10. They're always looking for that over the priced odds. Once it gets up, they're home and hose.
Yeah, I think it just depends what price you have them and what price you're offered. There can be value about an even money chance if you think they're $1.50, Terry. So I don't let that put me off. It's I know Shane prices.
That's very true, Clint.
Yep, Shane prices all the races, so he knows what his market is compared to the tote, and he can play accordingly. So that doesn't frighten me off. I think you just got to pick and choose the right ones. I'm going to run through my best bets now for the card. I thought there's a couple of races that we can, at this early stage, get to play. And Powerful Wings is definitely one of those that I want to play. I think he's ready to win one. It's not an ideal draw, but you know what? The draw might we might just get a point or two better in the market. I'm a big fan of D'Souza. I think he's riding well. I think this horse just looks a nice setup for him at the weights, etc., with a few of the others, but he will need a touch of luck in running. And there's another race there that I thought we could have a Quinella in. I thought Happy Daily, the Hulk who made our Sid file recently, and one other runner in the race, which was Stunning Impact. I think those three just stand out. It should be between those three. Hopefully young Angus Chung can get the Hulk out. I think with the weight off his back over 14, he can hopefully settle a little closer, but he was a sectional star the other day, and I don't think there are too many other chances in the race, so I was pretty happy to have those three in a Quinella 1, 2 and 6, and that was in race 5.
What about yourself, Shane?
Just one quick thing with pricing. Clint, first meeting, Lucky Swears. He was 210. That was way overs. He was a great bet that day. I think I had him about $1.60 in the end. And so you can back horses short when they're overs like that. So I totally agree with what you're saying. It's just not all long price horses. I like race 7, number 6, Youthful Deal. Went very well at his last start last season. He's a young horse, only had 2 runs. He trialled extremely good the other day and looked good. He's going to be a short price favourite, I think. There's a couple of nice horses in the race, like Super Sunny Sing and Good Buddy and Universal Horizon. They all go all right. They raced well last season. Brave Dreams ran a good second first up. But I think he's going to be very hard to beat. Youthful Deal in race 7. And in race 9, go the Quinella with, not race 9, race 8, I think it is, Encountered, the 4. I know Clint likes Playful Wings and it can definitely win, but I think Encountered's going to get the right run and will be very hard to beat. And that's a good Quinella if you like Powerful Wings, Clint.
Yep, no disagreements there. He's going to get a good run in the race and be a very good chance. But on behalf of all of our viewers, Terry, we've got to thank you for chiming in and taking over from the great man Richo, who's a very busy man during this week, and we appreciate your time and a job well done.
Mate, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed listening to Shane's thoughts as well, because you never stop learning in racing. As soon as you think you know it all, there's only one way you go, and some of the input that Shane's given, I've listened in very intently to what he has to say, and I've learned something from the show. So thanks for having me, guys, and we'll see you all next week.
Do we want Richo back? I like this, Terry. He doesn't give it to me. He's good. We should keep him, mate. We'll get rid of Richo. He's too busy anyway.